start by asking you a few questions. Have you ever felt out of your depth? Have you felt like a fraud, like you don't belong or you're not good enough? Or maybe have you ever felt like you've finessed your way through a certain situation? Pretty vague, I know, but I'll explain more in a little bit. So around 2 years ago, I worked for my first tech-related internship. The company had only accepted around 10 interns for the summer, and I remember I was so excited to work with such intelligent and inspirational people. And when I say that, mind you, I'm not talking about only my mentors, but also about my fellow interns. I remember learning about each one of them and their accomplishments. I mean, for most of them, this was their third or fourth tech internship. Over half of them had begun coding when they were kids. I, on the other hand, decided to just try it out on a whim during a quarter-life crisis in college. It turns out I absolutely loved it. Don't get me wrong, I still do, but I've definitely hit some roadblocks that I didn't expect to along the way. One of the biggest ones was my experience with imposter syndrome. Now, if you've ever taken some sort of coding or computer science class in your life, I'm sure you've participated in some kind of group project or assignment, and if so, then have you ever felt like everyone within your group, they just all somehow seemed smarter than you? Or maybe you felt like your contributions or your presence was insignificant because they didn't need you? Because I have. Sometimes it seemed like everyone around me was sort of just asking each other for questions or for help, but nobody seemed to ask me. And when I would answer one of these questions correctly, it almost seemed like they were surprised that I did. While it is self-deprecating to say the least, I couldn't help but wonder whether it's because they think I'm less experienced or maybe because I'm a female in a world of male coders. Not only does imposter syndrome dominate a lot of overall members of the tech community, but it also greatly affects almost all female computer scientists. Because we make up a significantly smaller percentage of members, it is essentially inevitable to eliminate all, if not much, of the gender discrimination and implicit biases that will lead to imposter syndrome within females in tech. For background, the distribution of electrical engineering and CS students at UC Berkeley is made up of 29.9% females, leaving 70.1% to be males in 2020. Fast forward a few age groups, and the gender distribution of overall employees that work within tech contains 60% males, leaving 40% as females. But let's narrow the scope a little bit and center just on the distribution of software engineers worldwide in 2020. Women only make up 8%, leaving 92% to be made up by men and non-binary workers. Why is that? Well, there exists a gender stereotype that dictates that men are superior to women, hence why women are underrepresented in the tech community. More specifically, men are considered to be better coders, more technically apt, and overall just smarter than women. Being a female within this community, I myself have already experienced a great deal of gender discrimination and early onset imposter syndrome. So what is it? Well, it's the psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, accomplishments, and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. So I guess for me, it's not so much of a fear of failure, it's more a feeling of guilt, or like this was all going to catch up with me one day. That is imposter syndrome. So flashback 2 years ago, I'm back on my internship for this company. I distinctly remember one day, it was only a few weeks in, feeling so defeated because I simply could not figure out how to approach this one problem. I felt so lost that I went to the bathroom and I cried for a solid 10 minutes in a stall by myself. Then I came out and told one of my fellow interns, "Hey look, I really don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I shouldn't be here." So she turned to me and she said, "Honestly, same." That's when I realized how common imposter syndrome is and how much it affects people in the world. Now that I've told you my piece, I want to share with you how I've dealt with imposter syndrome, and how you can too. Number one, don't be afraid to talk about it. Many people suffering are way too afraid to admit it because what if your fears become validated? But knowing that others feel this way too can help. You'd be surprised by how many of your peers and even mentors suffer from imposter syndrome. Even just knowing that there's a term or definition for your feelings can be a huge relief and allow you to combat imposter syndrome through positive feedback, self-awareness, and understanding. 2, understand that feelings uncertain or unworthy doesn't just go away with success. In my own case, I almost felt like the opposite was more true. However, it's important to not let that get in the way of you pursuing new things, taking more risks, and reaching out to achieve your goals, even if you don't necessarily believe that you might not be deserving. 3, learn from every experience. Take those failures, your moments of ignorance, turn them into learning experiences. Instead of feeling sorry, defeated, and wondering what to do next, channel that disappointment and guilt and turn it into something positive, a learning experience. Reassure yourself that it's fine to feel like this, so long as you understand why and you choose to turn those failures into something positive. And 4, introspectively understand that you are capable. Believe in yourself. It's important to realize that you can do this. Believing in yourself encourages you to not only reach for, but to accomplish your goals. Then we, as a generation, have the power to raise awareness of implicit biases and to lead not only ourselves, but also future generations on the path towards breaking extreme gender barriers and combating universal imposter syndrome. So to you all and to our future females in STEM, I will leave you with these words of affirmation. You are capable. You can do this. You are deserving, and you do belong. Thank you.